Artificial intelligence, multiple simulations. So you may know that simulation is used a lot in artificial intelligence because it's important to know how a AI agent will interact in a real world, in this case, virtual world experience, because you can't always do that as much as you'd like in the real world. For example, autonomous driving, you might drive, hundreds of thousands of miles or even millions of miles in the real world, but there's a lot of limitations in places that you can't get to. So, because you don't have infinite resources, so you might drive billions and billions of miles, in a simulation. So simulation is incredibly helpful for artificial intelligence because it could train as it bumps up against obstacles and situations in different contexts in simulated world. But rather than just having one simulated world, now they're starting to have multiple simulated worlds. In each simulated world, you could change or adapt slightly some of the variables. So the car could be a different configuration, it could be a different weight, it could be driving a different speed, it could have different courses. So what happens is the AI has to learn to adapt to each of these different multiple simulations, and they find that when you do this, even if the variations are just relatively slight, that when you get into the real world, that the adaptation is much better. I don't know all the dynamics behind it, but I would guess that it's because it's learned to adapt and adjust to many different types of simulations. So when I say adaptation is better than real world, what I mean is that not only in terms of like things that it has encountered, but also new situations. If it's dealt with many different types of situations and many different multiple simulations, then when new situations come up that it's not used to, then it's better able to adapt to them. So in my mind, I'm not a simulation expert, but in my mind, that means that the AI is actually learning something about adaptation if it can adapt to new situations better.